Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Boykin, and I'm here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I am joined this lovely Sunday afternoon by my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, what's happening, man?
How goes it?
Jesus, Eeyore. Uh, you know what? Yeah, I've basically been doing nothing but pouring concrete for the last 2 mornings. I'm a little sleepy, but yeah, let's do a fucking Sunday show, man.
What do we want to dive right into first?
I I think uh I think because we started last night calling out some of the squad for their BDS votes and Rokana for their BDS votes. And there's been some confusion over what the last anti-BDS bill did. I think it's important to mention that all of that is basically null and void right now because we're in the process of passing a very long and complicated bill that basically says we're going to write Israel a blank check. So even if you were to boycott or divest from them, it wouldn't matter because the US government is giving them billions and billions of dollars a year.
Yeah, I found that interesting. At least $38 billion over the next 10 years, and I was kind of curious. I mean, 5 billion alone for missile technology. I'm curious at what point Israel became a third world state in which its democracy was being threatened, and we needed to somehow prop them up to help them
You're
discover
you're breaking up
democracy.
a bit there, man.
Super. Give me a second. Let's see what happens.
Oh geez, I don't know. Are you there? Hello? Are you
Can you hear
there?
me?
Yeah, okay, that's better.
Fantastic. Um, I saw that $38 billion over 10 years, 5 billion going to missile um, creation, and it's one of those things at the end of the day where I'm just curious: at what point did Israel become a third world nation in which its democracy was threatened, and that we needed to prop it up?
Well, we have a not just a national security or foreign policy interest in making sure that Israel is the one Western quote unquote stronghold in the Middle East. But for a lot of the people that are in positions of power in this country, there's very strong religious significance to making sure that Israel is a nation with Jerusalem as its capital, so that when the end times and the rapture begin, they'll have all of the chess pieces in place.
Right.
And I wish I was making that up. I wish I was.
As an, hold on. As an atheist, I wish you were making that up too. Creating foreign policy based off fairy tales, I don't think it's ever worked in the history of humankind. I don't think there's ever been an upside to basing foreign policy on Santa Claus or God. I always get confused because they're pretty much the same person. Um, it's astounding how we allow this to occur. If any president or any member of Congress said that the spaghetti monster had directed them to set up funding for the spaghetti factory to become the number one restaurant in this country, people would look at them like they were insane. If any of the Thetans from Scientology told any members of Congress or the president that they needed to spend time eliminating psychology as a legal medical practice, people would look at them as they're insane. But we have a bunch of Christian fundamentalists ruling in Washington D.C. telling us that Zionism is a thing, and we need to fund the whack jobs that prescribe to it with money to ensure that the quote unquote end of the world occurs because their God told them to do so. I'm confused.
So there's a there's a thing called the Third Temple movement, and what it is basically the end times can't happen until the Dome of the Rock Mosque is torn down and the third Temple of Jerusalem is built in its place. So what a lot of the members of this Third Temple movement are doing is they're tunneling under the Dome of the Rock and eroding out the foundations of it in order to collapse Dome of the Rock, so they can because if maybe clearly like God has already meant to do this, it's just he's been busy, hasn't, maybe the contractors union was striking or something like that, so God himself couldn't collapse the Dome of the Rock temple, so these guys have to help God because God needs a leg up every now and then, and it's not some vainglorious narcissistic fucking sociopathic prophecy that they're acting out themselves because they want their fucking way. That's not happening.
Sounds like an accurate description. I'm perplexed though. If their God is all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, everywhere at the same time, omnipresent, omniscient, omnibus, wherever the hell else you want to throw omna in front of it, shouldn't that temple just kind of collapse on its own? Shouldn't just snap of the fingers, Thanos style? You
would think that were this actually by divine providence would, to quote another divine human being, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, make it so. But that's not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing is about a century-long fantasy being played out in terms of American Christian dominionists and like end times evangelicals and Zionists in the Knesset and members of the IDF, former members of the IDF, former members of Mossad, who have taken it upon themselves to literally be the hand of God and usher in the rapture. Not that there would be any sort of negative reaction if the Dome of the Rock temple collapsed, right?
No, of course that would go with a lot of understanding and some empathy, and I believe they would all come together and sing Kumbaya while picking up the rubble. Oh wait, I'm not high enough to believe that, so...
What? Okay, so I'm not high, but I don't believe that.
Well, then I'm double fucked. I mean, if you're not high, and you still don't believe it, there's no hope for me. But here, I can't stress this enough, and I don't care if you're religious or not. That's irrelevant to me. I believe that religion is cute if you keep it to yourself, much like your hands as a child. Keep them to yourself. When it starts to interfere with policy or human beings' lives, that's when I start mocking and ridiculing you and calling you an absolute fucking nut job for your religious beliefs. You believe that the hippie fucking rocked out with his cocked out, and that his dad was kind of a dick, Old Testament style. But they both foresaw the end times, and for that to occur, this, and this had to happen. But because they're all powerful and all knowing, they need a little assist from friends, the Zionists, to ensure that these things happen. Now, while you're living this weird fucking Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code fucking murder mystery bullshit, you're jeopardizing the lives of not only people in the Middle East, but across the world with your nonsensical bullshit about a temple needing to be constructed on top of another temple. Help me understand how anybody thinks this is logical, right, just, or sane.
Well, you can only have so many holy sites, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be holy. They'd just be sites. So if you went up putting sacred temples around any old place, then no one would understand the spiritual significance of that place. So if you limit it to just a couple of, you know, key locations, then you'll make other religions jealous because they'll obviously recognize the spiritual impact on this particular patch of grass versus that particular patch of grass, and then they'll want to put their temple there instead. So you have to slaughter each other to see whose god has a bigger wee wee.
We already have that in California without a god being involved. It's called the housing market. I'm confused. So does that mean every house in California is sacred?
I think that depends on how motivated your real estate agent is,
Yeah.
and whether or not they've like converted cocaine into a fine mist spray and can just do it Flonase style before they go pitch some shit.
You know
Um,
what is it? Necessity is the mother of all invention.
oh yeah,
No, I'm genuinely curious, and yes, I'm mocking you, Christians and Jews and Muslims, and come at me, dog, quote unquote. Um, what type of blatant stupidity are you mouth breathers trying to push across this foreign policy? I've seen troglodytes with smarter thoughts come across in their fucking cave paintings than this nonsense. You're talking about people's lives for some religious bullshit. I mean, didn't we figure out from the Middle Ages, Dark Ages, and the Renaissance period that, ruling with a theocracy isn't the wisest of all things?
sorry, I was muted. So okay. Um, what we figured out in the Middle Ages is that there's definitely certain kinds of torture that works and definitely certain kinds of torture that's unreliable. We found out that if your plutocracy is also a theocracy, then it's a bad idea to ban priests from having sex with women
Huh,
because they're just going to have a bunch of illegitimate bastards running around the country.
right.
And you got to sort them out. It paved the way for one hell of a caste system that is continued throughout time, really. Um, Instead of a monarchy or a theocracy that has essentially the same powers, and then like the landed gentry and lesser priests, and to an extent merchants and whatnot, we've got global bankers, we've got heads of state, we've got fucking financiers, manipulators of the market. It's the difference really essentially at this point between capitalism and feudalism is apparently they had more days off in feudal society.
I'm still, I'm still, I'm trying to wrap my mind around the significance of a quote unquote end time. What's the need outside of this war happens? Jesus shows back up, says, "What's up, bro? We got 1,000 years of good shit that's going to go down now. Life's beautiful, blah blah blah." What if not everybody prescribes to that theory?
Yeah, but see, it doesn't matter because the people that do are convinced that they're right, and they just happen to have the United States government and the Knesset, which is basically the two things that you would need to sort of broker Armageddon.
We realize as a nation that we let the fucking nut job fundamentalist Christians take over, right? Since the what late 70s, early 80s. What crack cocaine are they like just putting into their systems in DC and across state legislatures to think that this is okay, that this is a method that is solid?
Only the best crack cocaine, brought to you by the Central Intelligence Agency. So
You guys talking
it
about
if
shit?
it's Langley tested, it's good crack. We're gonna have to do like a whole.
worse.
We're gonna have to do a whole show on the CIA and the drug trade. I think that would be a lot of fun. We get between Judaism and Christianity, especially the branches of Christianity, Catholicism, and the more evangelical and Pentecostal branches and Baptists that do believe in this end time shit. You'll never not meet one that isn't ready for it. Like, they understand on some level that this world is a very, very imperfect place, but rather than try to make it immeasurably better while we're here, they've got this patch of cloud and some fucking Sound of Music for eternity going on in the movie theater.
And that's the thing. How can you call a Christian or a Muslim or anybody who believes in an afterlife an altruist? Every motivation that they have is for some fictional place after they cease to exist. So nothing that they do is altruistic or good. It's very greedy and self-serving, isn't it?
My favorite meme with Joel Osteen during the last hurricane in Florida and all the flooding, when the Joel Osteen was like, God to get shamed into letting people come into his church.
Right.
Well, it was a picture of him and it said, "Bitch, this ain't a people shelter. This is a tax shelter."
Jesus Christ.
And right. But I mean, look, we've had however many years of people legislating from the pulpit, which you are apparently supposed to lose your tax exempt status to do. And then we've had however many years of these Ralph Reed batshit fucking Christian coalition people running around right there with Roy Cohn, while Roy Cohn is fucking running a pedophile blackmail fucking sex trafficking operation right there. All of these Christian fundamentalists are right there. Several of the more prominent New York Cardinals, all right there. But look, we've got to have this end times war because look how successful Good Omens has been on Amazon. I don't know.
It's astounding. And at what point are we, as even moderate Christians, moderate Muslims, moderate Jews, moderate anybody in religion, if such a thing exists, will get alongside the atheists and the agnostics and the secularists and say, guys, I think this is a bad idea. I think this is a bad idea in execution. I think it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Overall, not our best work. Kind of up there with the internment camps and the whole screwing the American, Native American, whatever, however you want to phrase it, out of land, and not jumping into the Holocaust faster, to prevent Hitler from actually executing that. In the pantheon of bad ideas, this kind of belongs in there.
Which bit? Religion in general, or trying to usher in the end times for political and religious purposes?
Well, personally, I would say religion, but just for the theory of this show, just to make it simpler, this whole Zionism bullshit.
So, it's arguably the most successful political movement that we've had in the last 75 years. Because it's literally taken over how the United States Congress approaches business, and not just foreign policy, but business is home. You can that's evident with the language in the BDS legislation. It's evident when you read Men Press News and you see Jeff scandal is just a long-running operation that predates the founding the state of Israel by a couple of decades, but has influencers like Meyer fucking Lansky and a few prime ministers. And she hasn't written that article yet, but it'll be out Friday and she'll be on the show. There's every wrong reason to want to advocate this kind of shit. And I understand that the people in power are just preying on the religiosity of their subjects, really. But there's a couple of true believers like Mike Pence that are just fucking scary in terms of how dedicated they are to following through on this. The end times will come about on my watch.
And can I throw this out there?
Sure.
All these Democrats want to impeach Trump, which I'm for. I think he's committed crimes. But just think, Emperor Palpatine is right behind him to take over.
For whatever reason, they're either not concerned about a President Mike Pence because for the Democratic leadership, he's somebody that they couldn't want to work with. But there's also like regular people who are still drinking the blue no matter who Kool-Aid and think Pelosi is some sort of savage queen and some shit, that think that Mike Pence is just as guilty as Donald Trump is with cavorting with the Russians who hacked our freedom. That narrative isn't dying. That bullshit story is going to spin and spin and spin. It's Russiagate will be the gift that keeps on giving to the GOP.
Here is my stance on Russiagate. I think I've been abundantly clear 1,000 times. I believe that America needs to have more transparency in its elections and security. I believe that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton was entitled. She felt she was entitled to the office of the President of the United States. She didn't take seriously the threat from stupid Americans. And the sad fact is, stupid people outbreed smart people. And she didn't, in not taking this threat seriously, she failed to campaign in 3 key states. She lost those 3 states, and it turned the tide on the Electoral College. That's not the Electoral College's fault. That's not progressives' fault. That's not any other American's fault. That is those who supported Hillary Rodham Clinton and Hillary Rodham Clinton's campaign fault for running such a slapstick, comical, if not for the fact that it brought us Trump style of campaign.
You have to rig a primary because your candidate is the most unlikable candidate during the unlikable candidates.
Well, the hubris.
You should probably try and fucking extra mile it in the general and not sit on your laurels, stand for absolutely nothing, advocate barely a smidgen of change to what Barack Obama's administration was like, and then expect to not get fucking beaten by the monster you instructed the media to create.
Well, not only that, but they had the audacity, and I was going to say the hubris, to assume that progressives and the left would get in line. Like, we owe you something. There hasn't been a Democrat who's fought for the progressive or the left in Jesus Christ. Has it been that long since FDR? And even FDR wasn't fighting for leftists. It was a no-win situation for him. Now, at the end of the day, I don't owe a Democrat a fucking thing. And no other American owes a Democrat a fucking thing. And yet they demanded that we get in line, and we voted for her sorry ass in 2016. Now, the fact that we said, no, we don't have to do that, and we will not do that, wasn't even the reason why they lost the election. It was piss poor management by a fucking hapless campaign serving one of the two worst qualified, liked, however you want to phrase it, for the office of the president of the United States. I can't fathom this. So I don't feel like I need to justify anything when it comes to these imbeciles, and it's no one's fault but yourselves. So stop blaming everybody and get your heads out of your asses. This is just, I'm awe-inspired. Never has the United States been so potentially fucked on every level than it is right at this present moment.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do. We're on the precipice of, irreversible climate collapse, and they're trying to sell us Kamala Harris by way of a contested convention using Elizabeth Warren as the fucking Judas goat.
For some reason,
in order to lose,
I just imagine the Last Supper with like 12 goats. I don't know why I thought that, but
all right, okay, cool. They're setting Kamala Harris up to lose to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, this is a guy who totally belongs, like, well, in a federal prison for many reasons. Not many of them have to do with his presidency. He needed to be locked up a long time ago, but now he's also a war criminal. So, I would have no problem in seeing Trump go to jail after this if they can get him on anything. But here's the problem, dude, and I keep saying this, but if the Democrats, back to your impeachment question, were genuine, if they really, really wanted to, they'd have to stop making shit up to impeach him with in the first place, and everything they could impeach him with, it would blow back immediately on them. Like, there's documentation of it. We know that Barack Obama knew all about the fucking opposition research and the Steele dossier. We know he knew that Trump's communications were being monitored because the FISA warrant for Carter Page has this two-hop thing where if you're spying on Carter Page, you can spy on whoever he talks to and whoever they talk to.
Right. Trump belongs in prison for a multitude of things. And even worse, the American people put him in office because we're running with a duopoly. South Park said it best. The turd versus the turd sandwich versus the douche, what have you. Americans were offered more than two candidates, but apparently they only saw two, and it was two very bad decisions. And in 2020, there's potential for the slow-witted, unintelligible right wing of this country to put Donald Trump somehow back into office for 4 more years. It's up to Democrats.
If there's a contested convention,
it's up to Democrats to pull their heads out of their asses and realize that they don't have the electorate that they once had, that they need a broad coalition of individuals, that they need to tap into some of that 46% of people who say fuck both parties. And not by going right wing, because that in 2016 was proven to be a faulty premise that failed them miserably. But they need to go leftward instead of punching left and treating the left like some bastard stepchild. Recognize the fact that this country is polarized, accept it, and move in the direction of the left, because this whole we're trying to hold the center ground bullshit, it doesn't exist anymore.
But Jason, they're part of the reason why it's polarized, and that shit's on purpose. There's nothing that the people in power like more than 23 or 25% of the electorate voting for one party 23 to 27% of the electorate voting for another party and the rest of us not voting. Because it's easier to rig the elections that way. It's easier to manipulate the voting software. It's easier to fucking put your pet secretary of state in place so that when you need some irregularities to occur, they do. If they were interested in being a big tent party or building a coalition or any of that shit, they wouldn't have fucking not passed a worker friendly law since 1984.
Well, my
But
thing is that
it keeps. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just think it's based off the premise of these people having intellectual honesty or any other kind of honesty whatsoever. If Democrats possessed a shred of honesty, they would come out and say, you know what? We've been serving the corporate interests, the wealthy, for way too long. We're going to try to broaden this coalition, not by getting disaffected, non-existent liberal Republicans onto our side, but we're going to go to the people who are the reason why we have a party, and that's the left. And if Republicans were being honest, they had a shred of decency to them, they'd say, you know what, we're the American Fascist Party. We're all about this, this, and this, the Richard Spencers of the world, all that other nonsense. They could come on in, they could be spokespeople. But we're not going to see that. We're going to see the Democrat Party continue to go on their like right ward march right alongside the fascists. And they're going to keep punching left. And they're going to keep putting up non-electable candidates that don't have a chance in hell because of either America's institutional cultural racism, misogyny, what have you, or just inept candidates. Ones that are easy to prove. Elizabeth Warren was what, 1/2400th Cherokee or whatever it was. I mean, she went out and did this test that nobody asked for.
Donald Trump asked for it. Donald Trump Donald Trump goaded her into it. She got goaded into doing this by a fucking game show host, Jason. A game show host bullied her into getting a DNA test that she knew wasn't gonna come up. Oh yeah, you're a quarter fucking Native American. She knew that,
This
but
is
she
the
did it
candidate,
anyway
though,
at
that
the
the
behest of
Democrats
Hillary
want.
Clinton's advisors. Hillary Clinton's 2016 staff got split up between Kamala Harris and Kirsten Gillibrand and fucking Elizabeth Warren.
But this is the candidate the Democrats want.
Yeah, because they don't have to win to stay in power. All of their personal portfolios grow. The centrists fucking in Congress have much more in common with the fucking fascists in Congress than they do any of the quote unquote progressives, and they're pulling them along, man.
It's moments like these that make me question whether or not that we actually just shouldn't sit back with some popcorn and watch the fire.
Boots Riley has a line in a great song called Ride the Fence, and he says, I'm anti-Republican and Democratic. If they both self-implode, that'd be anti-climatic.
I like it.
And I'm right there with him. In fact, I think with enough decentralized activism, we can encourage that. But part of that is making sure that there isn't, what the fuck is that noise, by the way?
I don't know. I thought it was on your end.
No. Weird.
They love us.
Is that the NSA officer transcribing this shit?
I hope so. Remember YOU_RE, not YOUR. We saw the last time. Let's get that cleaned up, okay?
Yeah, I'm not typing anything, man. That's weird.
I'm not talking about you.
No, I mean it's just that's a weird fucking noise, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, my hands are right here.
That's unfortunate.
But no, at the end of the day, what it boils down to is that you have two parties that are interested in money and power and not affecting change for any single American that isn't a part of the top 5%, top 10%, however you want to phrase it. And so we have to ask ourselves the question: vote blue no matter who. What is that really? Is that just a vote for the status quo, a vote to keep the rich rich, to keep the poor poor, to make sure that racism exists, xenophobia, misogyny, etc., that we have a crumbling infrastructure, a foreign policy based on Zionism?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what vote blue no matter who is. It's fucking bow your neck, get in line, do what we fucking tell you. And when we side with the Republicans on every war ever, and when we side with the Republicans on deregulation, and when we side with the Republicans on giving billions of dollars to Israel, and when we side with the Republicans on fucking getting legislation passed that limits workers' rights even further, when we say, okay, we'll give you your $15 an hour minimum wage in 2025 when that $15 an hour is worth $8 an hour today. That's our big bad progressive fucking lefty legislation is less than crumbs eventually. Wow, they continue to build their own wealth. Nancy Pelosi's a fucking 100 millionaire, and there's jackasses running around calling her a wild-eyed socialist. I can't. The disconnect there is fucking beyond me.
Well, let me throw something out here, Steve. And let me throw this out there for our Democratic friends who may believe that we have some other nefarious objective. Senator Harris, Senator Warren, Senator Booker, Senators, anybody else, Gillibrand, Klobuchar, any of the representatives that are running, Marianne Williamson, anyone else that is in the Democratic Party that I disagree with. They are intelligent. They are dedicated. They are, and I'm not saying dedicated as in a positive thing necessarily, but they're dedicated to something. And they have a tenacity that got them to the position in which they're at today. This has nothing to do with what they look like, who they are, where they're from, anything else. What this is 100% about is horrible policy decisions that'll keep feeding the inequality in this country, that'll keep cops killing African Americans and Latinos and throwing them into the world's largest prison population and funding wars and jumping into wars that aren't necessary, and an economy that is so horribly unequal that it's not even funny, and schools that'll continue to crumble, and bridges that'll eventually start collapsing. Shall I go further? This isn't some doomsday bullshit that I'm like coming off with a Zionist. This is happening. This is currently happening. When a teacher who makes $38,000 a year has to bring school supplies to her children because they're in a socioeconomically impoverished area,
And their
there's something
schools
wrong.
are funded by property taxes.
Right. That's a different subject. I'm 100% opposed to that. But what I'm getting at is I didn't give you a doomsday prophecy that is constructed in my mind and written by people on peyote thousands of years ago. I'm looking at what's currently going on and giving you a doomsday scenario that's going to happen if you continue to vote for either one of the two parties. Get your heads out of your ass, drop the Kool-Aid. Jim Jones taught us not all Kool-Aid is good, and say, wait a minute. If I vote for you, is that going to keep the status quo? Is that going to keep things going on this horrible path? Are we going to continue to spiral out of control? Because all of you who are elected to Congress and the President of the United States have a vested interest in yourselves and not representing the people. I'm not telling you that all Democrats are the Antichrist. When Democrats start to run for the people, guess what? I'll support a Democrat. But until then, either the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, they're running for their wealthy interests and themselves, not for you and I.
You are absolutely correct. I mean, all I can add to that is all of that shit is on purpose. The constant division, the fact that we live in a heavily propagandized country that has the illusion of choice in media, but they're all pushing the same end narrative from two different angles. Your television is propagandized heavily. Man, you can't find a show out there that deals with war or the police where they don't excuse war crimes and police brutality. The the last study that they convened about domestic abuse and police officers said that around 40% or more of police officers are domestic abusers. It when you create a hyper militarized culture and pit the people within that culture versus the civilians, you remove, protect, and serve from the fucking ordeal, which they did, God, right after 9/11, I think. Um, and you you make um, make literal war zones out of the areas that these people are supposed to police. You have the perfect ideal of what policing is, and that's ensuring the property rights of the extremely wealthy, or even the just wealthier than you are, to fucking try and round up as many poors as possible.
That's
That's where we're at.
Yeah, that's succinctly put. Again, it just falls back to, are you really tired of people suffering, or do you just put on a good front because it makes you feel better when you go to the ballot box and you vote for any random Democrat because you're doing your part? And it's those mean and pesky Republicans that are just always they're impeding the process, and those dumb red states, they keep fucking up the works, and oh man, jeez, shucks. Have you ever stopped for a moment and thought that you contributed to the same thing, that you're contributing to the same story that has the same inevitable conclusion? Have you ever thought to yourself that you're not affecting change in any way? You're supporting those that support the wealthy, that take cues from the wealthy, that take their marching orders from the wealthy, and that you are either really slow witted because you haven't caught on to it yet, or you are just like an ostrich putting your head in the sand, unwilling to acknowledge simple facts that exist around us. This isn't conspiracy theory. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am nowhere close to a conspiracy theorist. I watched Ancient Aliens on History Channel one time, and I thought it was the dumbest show on television. I can't stand conspiracy theorist YouTube. I like to deal in reality, and there's nothing conspiratorial about what I'm saying because it's all right there. You can see the duplicity of every individual candidate, whether it be Joe Biden, whether it be Senator Harris, whether it be Senator Warren, whether it be, name anybody, Bill Weld on the Republican side, or Donald Trump. You can see the duplicity and the self-serving interest that all these people have for them. And I don't know if it's because you're stupid or you're generally ignorant. And I mean ignorant in the Webster's dictionary sense, that you don't understand. You're not knowledgeable enough to comprehend what's happening. So you're either stupid or you're uneducated. And you got to stop being one or the other. You got to just look at the world and say, you know what? I really do want to make a change. I do have good intentions. And unfortunately, I was given two options that really, really suck. So let's change the paradigm.
Well, what I mean, to me, the most realistic approach to that would be mass civil disobedience, complete unified violation of the Taft-Hartley Act. They really can't round up 200 million of us.
Oh,
They really can't. But the thing is, I've read a handful of places, and I need to go like back and pull the quote, but it only takes like 3.5% of the population to strike, protest, get out in the street, get something going in order to have movement. What the fuck? That really sounds like typing. It's wild.
Yeah, well, my hands are right here, and there's nobody else
Yeah,
in the room.
no,
I don't know
no,
where it's
no.
coming from.
Huh?
I don't know where it's coming from. Like I said, my hands are right here. My computer is shut down. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's fucking crazy. Yeah, anywho, God, now I don't even know where I went.
you were talking about 3%.
Oh yeah, 3.5% of the population is enough to have an effective strike or protest.
9.6
That
with
will
10
get
million
you.
people.
That will get you effectively. God, that's so weird.
It's every time you talk. Say something.
Something.
See? It sounds like popcorn. I'm no audio guy, so I'm not even going to pretend to have any knowledge in what it could be.
Right. That's
See?
weird as fuck.
Maybe the audience could tell us if they're hearing it from my end too, because I hear it usually when you talk.
Yeah, can you guys hear that? That's fucking wild. You know what, man? Do you have you don't have much time left though, huh?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fucking wild.
Well, I say we give it another 5 or 10. Let's jump into another topic if you want to, and then we can try to clean this up tonight, and then hopefully cross our fingers for tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I would like to ask whoever is responsible for transcribing this to please pull it up on YouTube and hit that like button. And if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to the show.
Might as well get something out of it.
You know, let's why can't we be friends? Why can't we?
Let's just hug it out. Let's hug it out, bitch. Let's
Right?
hug it out.
Right? Holy fuck, dude. So real quick, before we wrap things, I might be back here in a little bit with Andrew from Action for Assange. Weird. Why do people think Kim Iverson is a progressive?
Well, because she. That's all I got.
Yeah. I mean, I got piled on in a fucking Twitter thread the other day when I brought this up. I'm like, no, dude, she's using like 10-year-old neocon talking points when you bring up Israel and Palestine, and she had some really fucking weird takes about centrist Democratic candidates, and she has had a Twitter thread up that is now deleted, but where she was going on and on about being a big fan of Dave Rubin's show, and she couldn't end this at the same time. Here, I'll read the tweet because for whatever reason, why is there all this bashing between YouTubers? If you don't agree, you should state so and make a case, but name calling and cancel culture is absurd. Have a little respect and dignity. I'm not on a team. I'm an individual with my own thoughts. Thus, I can't grift.
Keep talking, Steve.
Now, I'm no magician, all right? But I'm pretty sure that in logic, being an individual and having your own thoughts does not exempt you from being able to grift people. In fact, I mean, I understand that there are several classics or variations on themes of, quality, tried and tested grifts, but you would think that your own individuality would be what sold the grift more than anything else, because people can spot a cheap imitation.
Well, here we go. According to Webster's Dictionary, grift is there's here we go. There we go. It's a transitive verb to obtain money or property illicitly, as in a confidence game, con job. To acquire money or property illicitly. Let's see. Grift was born in the argot of the underworld, a realm in which a grifter might be a pickpocket, a crooked gambler, or a con man. Any criminal who relied on skill and wits rather than physical violence and to be on the grift was to make a living by stings and clever thefts. Grift may have evolved from graft, a slightly older word meaning to acquire dishonestly. Now, what could she possibly be grifting? Could she be grifting her career and any money derived by playing a con game in which she is a progressive?
She rocketed up
Nothing to do with teams.
the YouTube popularity contest. She's got a ridiculous amount of subscribers for somebody who just started creating content. And for an individual who has her own thoughts, I haven't heard any new ones. I haven't heard a new take. I've heard variations on everyone from like Anna Kasparian to fucking Katie Couric. I think that it's very possible that there is an entire generation of people watching Kim Iverson's show who didn't grow up in the 90s or even the early aughts and remember terrible fucking broadcasters like Lisa Ling, who was straight up fucking CIA. Uh, or what was that dude on MTV News?
Kurt Loder?
Yeah, he was like 80 when they launched. Like he looked like Iggy Pop's like rougher living older brother.
Is he alive still?
I don't know if he is. He's on everybody else's oxygen. I know that.
I don't know. I look at it from the perspective of um, either she's exceptionally ignorant and not comprehending what grift means, or she's just trying to continue on the con game and try to elicit sympathy. Um, a centrist may live off the mantra of understanding and bipartisanship. If you're a progressive, you realize that those things don't exist anymore. And that bipartisanship is just another word for surrender. We have surrendered entirely too much in this country to the wealthy interest and to the institutions that enhance, again, racism, misogyny, sexism, discrimination of all forms. And to have a simpleton cry about grift and cry about lack of understanding and everything else and how we need to reach across to the Dave fucking Rubens of the world. Just stop. Please stop.
I want to know how you can not understand how like sassy YouTube call out videos are what has made most of those people's careers. You know?
Look at Jake Paul. Look at Jake Paul. And most people on here will have no idea who the hell Jake Paul is. And it's okay. You're probably better off for that. But there's so many YouTubers that got so many more views and so many the money that came in from Logan Paul and Jake Paul in the last 3 years alone, just making commentary videos about them. Absolutely awe-inspiring. Don't play ignorant that you don't know. If you're in YouTube and you're a part of the culture, you know why these things happen. You can't play stupid. Well, you could, but it's just going to be very disingenuous.
Hey, from the chat, Jay, will you look up Ann Neuberger? ANNENEUBERGER.
Yeah, I'll take a look. Pop on the old computer. I've got the beginning of a migraine, so I turned it off.
Okay. NSA Cyber Chief.
Tomorrow we do have to touch on that House resolution that you showed me. Orthodox Jewish woman named head of NSA's new cybersecurity. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
She's pretty. I thought of that.
Do you know if J. Paul is gone from Real News?
Jake Paul?
J. Paul.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's still the talk of YouTube, but I don't think that he's done anything to get onto the mainstream lately.
Okay.
Anne Newberger, 43, is from a heavily Jewish Brooklyn neighborhood of Borough Park, where she attended Bay. Oh, you.
So here's something to chew on. This is propaganda in the chat. Tulsi is to the left of Bernie, and Abby Martin pushes Bernie like he's a saint.
Wait, what? Hold on.
The I don't I
I've got a migraine. Maybe I'm not catching on to things. What does that have to do with the price of tea in Bangkok?
Oh, it's part of it's part of an ongoing thing. They were talking about like somebody in the chat was like hot chicks get more YouTube coverage anyway. And fucking
The Pauls would disprove that theory.
well the Pauls aren't hot chicks.
That's what I'm saying. That would
Yeah,
disprove that
no,
theory.
it's just if you're I guess if you're a hot chick with a political opinion, you're more likely to have people watch your YouTube show. I
Well,
think.
I think that goes across for anybody attractive. If anybody attractive has a political opinion, then all of a sudden they're far more popular. Um, Subtract Cenk Uygur from that, but outside of that, I mean, it's one of those things where attractiveness and symmetry and all that other fun stuff from a psychological standpoint is more appealing to human beings. Ergo,
Cenk Uygur got YouTube popular because he would scream into the camera and he would make bad 90s movie references, and he somehow convinced people that he would make screaming attack videos.
right,
Was what he would do. That was TYT in the early days, was just a fucking basically a rant on the company that wouldn't let him work for him anymore.
right.
So again, if you're trying to say that you don't understand YouTube attack videos, then you've obviously not understood how YouTube has worked for most people. I still don't think why people think she's a progressive. I don't see why she gets like this giant progressive pass from a lot of people. What it does, man, is it allows for the further muddying of the waters. It allows for people to associate themselves with some part of the left that doesn't represent them. And then when people who don't have time and maybe just catch cable news and fucking, when they see people described on the left, they look at fucking Karen over there. And that's what they associate with the left is fucking Karen instead of an actual leftist. Not
Right.
you, Karen Mitchell, if you're still around. We love you, Karen Mitchell. I'm sorry. It's a, what, I'll think of a better name for that. Maybe I'm not necessarily a Becky, but kind of a Becky, just an older Becky.
My parting shot will be quite simple. One, I've never heard of this person before you pointing me in the direction of that really stupid tweet. We have to be aware that not necessarily everybody who says what we want to hear is an ally. We have to be cognizant of their past. We have to be cognizant of what their positions are by actually listening to them. And we have to be aware of what interest does it serve them to be a quote unquote progressive. TYT has made a lot of money off of being a progressive. Kyle Kalinske has skyrocketed for being a progressive. There are others who have taken advantage of this newfound sense of progressivism in this country and have been able to monetize it and make themselves famous over it. At the end of the day, there are going to be people like us that are doing independent media for truth's sake. Neither Steve nor I are going to be media moguls. We're not going to be able to rival Rupert Murdoch in Fox. We're not going to be taking a G7 anywhere anytime soon. The roles apparently is still in the shop for both of us. We're out here doing this because we want to provide facts and information, not because we want to rub elbows with Cenk Uygur or Bernie Sanders or Tulsi
Oh,
Gabbard or.
Jesus. Speaking of that, not to cut you off, but did you see that disgusting fucking picture of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Maureen Dowd at her fucking like dinner party for the elites when her book came out?
Oh God, no! You're gonna
Dude,
have to send me
it
that one.
encapsulated everything that's wrong with neoliberalism in one glorious fucking picture.
Yeah.
And the guy who posted it was fangirling over it, and then he ended up deleting it because Twitter tore him up about it.
But that's the thing. There are some of us out there, and there's a lot of us that are doing this for the right reasons, because we want to pass on information to the masses so that we can make a change in this country. And then there's sadly some of us who see a monetary value in it, and they think with their capitalism head, and they pursue the almighty dollar. They don't believe what they say, and even if they do, they've sold it out a long time ago in the chasing of that money and the fame and the things that come with it. It's pretty easy, folks. Ask yourselves, how does this best suit them? Are they a real progressive person? Are they a real socialist? Are they a real member of the Green Party? Are they a real leftist? Or all of a sudden, are they starting to make their rounds on MSNBC and CNN? Are they starting to get book deals? Are they starting to get their own shows on one of these stations? Factor in TYT with that as well. Are they starting to make money off of the left and not doing anything to actually merit it? I mean, these are just some of the few questions you could ask yourselves when you're looking at these people to give them credence. Otherwise, be a torpedo in the water and blow them straight out of it.
I had somebody jump my shit over being critical of David Dole,
Okay.
the Rational National. He's
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and the argument was he's coming from a good place. He's being as left as he's allowing himself to be. And I was like, well, that's fucking bullshit, because look, if you're willingly or unwillingly spinning the fucking official narrative, at the end of the day, you're going to tell your audience to go ahead and pull that fucking lever for the registered Democrat if you're not advocating fucking strengthening your own communities and getting to, you know, find out who your neighbors are and come together for non-governmental solutions to
Right.
problems that impact us. If that's not what you're doing and you're rolling out that official narrative, you're not fucking helping.
And let me be unequivocally clear. While I don't promote making money from this endeavor that we're all taking on, if you're genuinely using that money to improve your broadcast or donate to local communities or to support what you say, practice what you preach, and maybe you're hiring on a media person, a journalist, maybe you're hiring an editor, maybe you're, I don't know, simple shit. If you're not doing this with the express purpose of becoming wealthy and becoming one of the cool kids that'll be at all the dinner parties with the Pelosi's, I gotta stop with the air quotes, but that's something that's totally separate. Um, Again, it just boils down to what's their motivation. That's how you can
Well, yeah,
determine
and
whether or not they're an ally.
I mean, you can tell by the degree of suit and frequency of haircut, you know, that you're there to promote your brand. I mean, they talk about their brand when your news show is replaced by branding. Like, you're you're there for marketing purposes, and marketing purposes always have a way of somehow never winding up being your own purposes.
I was approached about branding at least 50, 60 times over the last 4 years. I think it's absurd. I think it defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do, and it subtracts any integrity and honesty from anything that I say. How can you trust me if I'm being a paid spokesperson? But that's just me. I'm not here to judge. Yes, I am. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, ask yourself, what's their motivation? And it doesn't matter. They could be from any walk of life. They could have any version of education. They could be of any color, any race, any gender, any religious or non-religious. It doesn't matter. There's no type. Just listen to the person's words. Listen to what their goals are, and then subtract that from who funds them, who ensures that they have money, and just how thirsty are they. That's all I got. I'm going to go decapitate myself now.
All right, Jay. You take care of that noggin.
I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful night.
I will stick around here for a few minutes because somebody brought up something that. Peace, brother. You take care.
Brother.
Thank you. Jason Carney and his sore head, everyone. Yes, you absolutely should look up. Okay, so here's the thing: when you look up the clip of Ron Placone tearing David Dole a brand new asshole free of charge, it's behind the paywall at Jimmy Dore's website because it was a live stream. I don't know if there's a clip of it on Jimmy's website. But somebody told me they found clips of people defending David Dole, and it played the clip of Ron going off on him. I was so appreciative of that I texted Ron to thank him. We ended up chatting for a while. But yeah, it was a beautiful, several beautiful moments because David Dole went on Jimmy Dore's show and started talking this drab centrist nonsense that why you would do that. Like Jimmy couldn't understand it. He was very visibly confused because I think he thought that he was getting someone that was much more in line with where he is, and that is just not the fucking case with this guy. And so they were both kind of batting him around, and fucking yeah, you should look it up. It's good stuff. Have we decided or discussed for after this month when Google Hangouts is in? Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what we've concluded, but we have talked about it. Yeah, I don't know. It's still up in the air, and I know that I'll be in the studio at least for Whitney Webb again and Graham Elwood again. Yeah, the first week of August might be a little slim on the multiple live streams. I can do a show by my lonesome, but I can't have Jason come on. It's where I live. We've got slow ass internet, and to get really fast internet, is not a part of our reality. So, yeah, I don't know. We've got a couple ideas. I mean, okay, I understand why people would push Bernie Sanders over Tulsi Gabbard in this situation. I don't know if I would call her further left. She's further to the left on Bernie on some issues and further to the right of him on others. Um, I think they both fund imperialism more often than not, whether or not they're voting to go to war or not. I mean, look, from a purely political standpoint, if your end goal is you think that there's going to be some change coming out at the federal level if someone like Bernie or like Tulsi gets elected, then you're more likely to push for the person who has the major name recognition now, having already ran and having won 43 states and having had several other states stolen from him, and now has like upwards of 2 million volunteers on the ground and is at or over a million individual donors and has this giant fucking war chest. And I I think that, I mean, I'm glad that there are people that are really, really supporting Tulsi, and I'm glad that there's people that are raising her profile in their own circles, in like your circle of influence or mine or what, however, I'm glad that that's happening. I think she probably has more support than what the polling is showing, and in fact, I would guarantee that. Um, but I think that the smear campaign on her to a very large degree has been effective, which is unfortunate. Um, and why Abby Martin is personally, as you said, doing mental gymnastics, I don't know. I don't know, because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Abby Martin do anything in quite a while. And I've barely fucking seen anything at all in the last like solid week. Um, I generally like Abby's take on it. I don't know. I would go to her for the Empire File stuff immediately, still, regardless of what her take on Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders is. I trust her in that aspect of reporting. Um, so why do you think that Tulsi's to the left of Bernie? I don't, I like, in what areas? I think that you could make legitimate cases for, she said Julian Assange's name out loud and she said Edward Snowden's name out loud. Um Honestly, at this moment, I can't recall whether or not she used Chelsea Manning's name in the same context. I'm not sure. I will, if anyone knows if she's made any statements on Chelsea Manning, that'd be really cool, because she is quickly approaching $30,000 if she hasn't hit it already in fucking ridiculous fines, for not falling into a perjury trap. And she's only there because the judge thinks that more time will break her. And that's a fucking law that exists in America, and 2019. So you're right in that Tulsi has brought forth a lot of legislation. I don't know. I know she knew that the Stop Funding Terrorists Act was going to go over like a fart in church. I know she knew that. I'm glad she was able to get some bits of it into the defense bill. I think that she's probably, well, clearly, I think she's quicker to act, but I don't necessarily, I don't know, man. I mean, you've still got people who support the drone program. You've still got people who believe in the war on terror. In both of their cases, they believe in the war on terror, and that means they're susceptible to reading the intelligence and going, oh my God, we've got to act now. And it turns out to be bullshit. The CIA needed to get the fucking lefties into a war so everybody can hate them too. You know, I mean, I don't like that Bernie Sanders is incapable of saying Julian Assange's name. I don't like that he's had shitty takes on Venezuela, and he's got iffy statements or an iffy record on Palestinians. So does Tulsi, for that matter. They talk good shit. I don't know. No. No. Um, I think I think out of the two of them, the one that has the best chance of getting robbed at the convention is Bernie. I realize that more of that has to do with people don't know shit about Tulsi, and most of what they do know is fucking made up smears or old fucking debunked shit. I think Tulsi gets to evolve more than any other politician gets an allowance to evolve. And I think that's interesting. Um, I I don't know, man. I don't like. She's on the Council on Foreign Relations. There's some things about her that, and I mean, I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna vote for anyone with a D next to their name anyway. And if I thought she was running to get shot, you know, I might be more into supporting her. I think it'll be key for her to try and steal time the next time that she's in a debate setting, because you know that they're not going to let her talk much. She obviously poses a threat to, or a perceived threat to, the majority of the establishment, but I don't know. I mean, That is an interesting point. Grandma Christine says, I think Tulsi can get along with capitalism more easily than Bernie. I don't know, because, I mean, Bernie's still a capitalist. He wants to tinker around the edges of capitalism. I think that the propaganda that's been done on him, that's painted him as this fucking, 100% true, real deal, seize the means of production fucking socialist, has worked at every conceivable level. And I understand going into it that if you work on Wall Street or if you are a CEO of a pharmaceutical company, then fucking everybody to the left of fucking Steve King is a communist. I get that. Um, but yeah, that's a fantastic point. They're both green capitalists, and fuck green capitalism. Green capitalism can't save us. It can't. Green capitalism is going to be end user carbon taxes and fucking not addressing the top 100 polluters on the planet and not fucking reforesting. It's there's no incentive in green capitalism to stop making plastics. There's no financial incentive in green capitalism to fucking not go into a rare earth mineral war. That's green capitalism. Fucking rare earth mineral wars and fucking I don't know. All of those in an official political capacity should be fired immediately without benefits. If anyone of them is absent from a vote. I don't care if they miss votes. I don't. Not the vast majority of the time that there's a missed vote, it's not a close vote. I don't, I would like to, but I'm also looking at it as I only expect these guys to fuck us anyway. I mean, it'd be cool if we could levy punishments and fines for congressmen for not doing their job. That'd be kick ass. I would be all for that, but I don't know. See it really happening. Tulsi donated her money away so she wouldn't be a millionaire. That is interesting. Yeah, I know. It's fucking hilarious. There's off-site dialing for dollars facilities for Congress critters. I don't. There's a couple of movies where they show that. But yeah, is 60% of their time. I know it's I know it's exorbitant amount of time. You cut back on that by having publicly financed elections, and you shorten the election season to like 3 months. I don't know, maybe 6 months. Let them travel around a little bit and shit. But 2 to 4 years for a campaign and the billions of dollars that get thrown around while Flint still doesn't have clean water. We fucking still think that fracking is a good idea. We export fracking now. We used to have a moratorium, or not moratorium, but a fucking rule, a law in the books against exporting fracked liquid natural gas. Um, Thanks to the Obama administration, with a lot of lobbying on behalf of Hillary Clinton's State Department, that is no longer a thing. So yeah, um, yeah, no, of course they're a big improvement over the usual that were offered, and that's why they're going to work so hard to make sure that the convention is contested. I um I see all hell breaking loose if for some fucking reason Bernie Sanders gets into the general election. Um I see Democrats openly working with the GOP. I fucking really, I wouldn't put it past them to have a new party by 2022. I see Wall Street intentionally tanking the economy. I see fucking a couple of false flags. It will, like, all hell will break loose. And I'm here for that. I'm fucking um because I don't think that we can incrementally legislate our way out of an oligarchy. So, you know, it would be fucking crazy. I They only get a centrist into the White House in 2020 if there's a financial collapse and that middle of the road Democrat can fucking make a case for uh we're going to get the economy under control, and then maybe we can look at some of the stuff that we were talking about on the campaign trail. And oh my god, why would you want this guy in office? Look at how much of your money he's going to take, and you just lost a big chunk of it. Like, I can see that working. I can, but only because not enough people would get out in the street with just a financial collapse. Like, some other shit would have to happen. Americans are not wired to fucking protest, even though we're a nation forged in revolution and genocide and slaughter. Fucking uh the the fighting spirit transferred to the financial sector, and that's where most of us get fucked now. He Yeah, I I mean, I we try to say on the show that we're not, like, openly advocating for violent revolution, although guillotine jokes are fucking awesome. Um, but if you take away the ability to protest, if you take away for the citizenry to come together and fucking support one another and have a mass general strike, and that's a violation of a law that's been on the books since 1948. Like, if you take peaceful protest away, violent protest is inevitable. Um, I I don't know. I mean, grow food by bullets, right? Because you know what? I don't hear the tapping now that Jason's gone. I'm gonna have to tell him that. Right? Oh, see, I mean, I wouldn't expect like everybody to partake in violence, you know. I would volunteer to help on the front end and build them. I don't know if I could physically take like the job of making sure they went in the baskets, but I do take pride in my craftsmanship. So, you know, I like to be helpful. Uh, you know what? I'm gonna knock off for a bit. Andrew from Action for Assange, maybe on with me a little bit later. Um, yeah. In the meantime, I'm Steve Boykin, and this has been Slow News Day, and good luck to us all.